Welcome to Tools for the Times with Wendy Cohen, where you will learn how to be spiritually secure and inspired as you prepare for the future.
Well, thanks for being here. I am Suzanne with Wendy Cohen. And Wendy, we were just talking about the last show that we spoke about and that you shared a lot about Pentecost. Well, you had a chance to teach it this past weekend, and you're bubbling over with excitement and new thoughts on that. So I want to kind of just do a little bridge to the last show with some of your updated thoughts.
Well, when I was preparing to teach this week, first of all, I just want to say shalom, because in this format, this is our last session. Yeah. And I just want to thank people who have walked with us through these last two seasons, and the way God's presence has moved and has opened up. It seems like world after world after world. We started with my recovery from the Satanic Ritual Abuse I've been through, and we talked about that process of recovery, and then we talked about the healing that God had brought, and then we talked about how God had orchestrated all of that, and that I had used people, I had gone through different systems and kind of schools of thought about it, but in the end, God himself was the one who had initiated and brought me through the healing, and God is the one who walks me through every day. And I think because all I've been through, I can't imagine a single day without his being right in my face, present, moving me, growing me, expanding me, teaching me. It's like I'm so addicted to him. It says that those who've been forgiven much love much. And I tell you, that's so true. And those who've been redeemed of much are dependent so much. It's like I'm not willing to take a step on my own.
Right.
And because of that, the Lord shows me so many secrets, little things. He shows me so many things about himself and about how he created the world and who he wants to be in us and how we can partner with him. And it's like I could do one of these podcasts every day, because every night he fills me with something new that he teaches me.
But your heart is open to it. You're asking to receive it. And I think that's the difference between you and, I'll just say me, but maybe some people who are watching and listening,
so I won't
to be so conscious of it.
I don't dare start any day without that. I don't dare.
Yeah.
You know, and other people, they may have more self-confidence in their ability to live life in their own strength. Well, very little, because of where I've been and what I've experienced is like, no, I won't walk across the room in the morning. I mean, excuse me, I know this is very personal, but I may have to go to the bathroom in the morning, but I won't get out of bed until the work that I'm doing with the Lord comes to completion.
Wow.
It's like, no, I won't move. I won't move until whatever he wants to show me that day has been fully deposited in me. So as I was preparing for this teaching, he starts out by saying this. He said, well, fire on Mount Sinai, that was so big it scared people. They'd rather die than come close to me. The fire at Pentecost, well, that was so intimate, everybody wanted to run to it. But have you considered the first fire? And I was like, no, what? What do you mean? And he said, there was eternity. And eternity is something that's not only of time, it's of space. If you have eternity and you live in eternity, you can't get from one place to the other place without using time. It takes time to get from one place to another place. Something happens and something else happens. He said, the extent to which everything was eternal removed the concept of space as well as time. It was an is-ness. He said, that's why I'm called I am am. It actually doesn't say I am, it just says am. Who is God? Am was God's answer.
Oh, wow.
And it's a verb. It's is. And so he
Is-ness.
said, is-ness. So imagine all of this vastness that we can't comprehend, this enormous oneness of everything, pressing in, pressing in, pressing in, pressing in, pressing in till it explodes into time, into space, and creates something temporal. And how does it do it? Through a word. What is the word? It's sound. Through light, through the vibrancy of sound and light. And there it is. And temporal reality is created out of eternity.
And is-ness is created.
And that was the universe being established.
Yeah.
And it's like he said, that was the first fire. That was the first smoke. That was the first sound. Now take the enormousness of that, and now we come to Shavuot, when the Israelites received the 10 Commandments, and think about the intensity of the fire and smoke on top of one mountain. Yeah. A sound so loud. It doesn't say trumpet blasts. It says sounds, like voices.
Okay.
Sounds. That's the Hebrew. It's like voices. It's not trumpet blasts. It's voices. Sounds so big that people are covering their ears, covering their eyes. They're flat on the ground. They say, Moses, you go talk to this thing. We're not going to go anywhere near it. You know, and then the mountain that they found where they think this happened, the top third of it is black. And then it's got 12 altars around the sides of it. So they think they found the one.
Wow.
And for thousands of years, nothing has grown on the top of this because the fire was so intense. So now imagine Moses walking up it. The people thought he died. Just imagine all of this. Wow. So big to them, but compared with what created the universe, so small. Yeah. So human.
Wow.
And yet God was still not approachable. And then he comes to dwell within us. And it's just a little fire on top of people's heads. It's just each person has the ability to speak. The voices, the same word, the voices goes out. So everybody can understand them, but it's human in size. And then that came into us at Pentecost. But now go back. What came into us? The very power that created the entire universe is what came into us. The very power of that original sound, of that original light, whatever we're going to call it, came into us. Yeah. And we received it as something so small. It fit on top of our heads.
Wow.
Something
so
intimate, it could live within our hearts and nourish us. But when we say yes to it, when we say we're willing for it, it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and grows inside of us. Does anybody know how much it can grow? Because that thing that's growing inside us comes from eternity and is eternal, and it is outside of time and space. How big is that? And that is what is growing inside of our little temporal bodies. That's the reality.
It's amazing. You know, I think about where we've gone in these 2 seasons, where we are today talking about eternity and the Holy Spirit, and where we started with your story of brokenness. And you've taken us by the hand and walked us through each session of what healing looks like. I want you to just talk a little bit more about that. And,
when I was uncovering my brokenness, working on it with the Lord, I didn't have the capacity to think thoughts about God that were greater than his ability to heal me. There is a place for being very, 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 can I repeat it enough? Very, very small and intimate in the Lord. There is a place where all that matters is who God is and who I am. And here I am, and I'm totally broken, and my parts don't fit together, and this one says this, and this one says that, and this demon says that, and that demon says this, and I have no power and no control over all of it, and this is all I know. And I can't be any bigger than this, and all I can deal with is the pain. I'm just feeling the pain morning, noon, and night. This is it. And
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
You have to be willing to be that and to meet God there. If that's where you are, that's where you are. And then as you heal, what replaces this is God. So slowly, every bit of brokenness is replaced by his wholeness on the cross, his blood, his sacrifice. Everything that's broken is replaced by his glory. And at some point, you cross the threshold. And who he is inside is bigger than the brokenness of who you are. And your experience is that he is bigger and his glory is bigger. And then you don't have to do all that work all the time. It's like, oh, I can just relax into the Lord. Oh, he can just come and take this away. Oh, look at what just happened. Oh, that just all disappeared. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, how big is this God? But it's still about you. You're still healing, but it's, whoa, how big is this God? He's so huge. And then all of a sudden it crosses another threshold, and I really don't care about me anymore. It's not that there's anything wrong with me. It's not that I don't matter, but I don't care about me anymore. I've gotten too much of a taste of you. I care about you. And who are you? And what are you? And why are you? And what do you want to give me? And what do you want me to do? And so it's still at some level about me, because it's still, what am I going to do for your kingdom? And what are you going to give me to support that? And what is our relationship? So I'm still in the equation.
Sure.
I don't disappear, but my interest is on him rather than me.
Well, that's probably what prompted you to write the book, right? It's the healing. And now you're doing a movie. I mean, it's all kind of the same thing. It's the next step.
Because your wings start to fly. Your wings, you start to have wings that flap. Your wings start to fly. And you are traveling in places with the Lord you never knew you could get to. But you started from this.
Broken, unworthy.
Yeah. Those who are meek in spirit receive the kingdom of heaven. And it's like, oh. And that's the exchange. That's the exchange. That's it.
So you keep, through these things that you're doing, like writing the book, Freedom, True Freedom Lasts Forever, and doing this movie that you're doing, you keep receiving from him and then pointing it back.
It's the only thing I can do. You know, nothing else matters. It's like, if all that I can't communicate, that I was trying to communicate, if all of that created all of this that we know, and that means the entire universe, not just our solar system, you know, all the black holes, everything, as far out as you're going to go, all of that created all of this. And that is so much vaster than this, because there's no end to its spaciousness. Yeah. Which is more important? Which is more interesting?
Yeah.
Which grabs my heart and pulls my heart forward more?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm too curious as a person. I'm too much of a traveler. I want to discover all that God has for me. And so it's just like, oh my gosh, and what do I need to do to get close to that? It's always the simplicity of it. You must forgive. You have to go back. Mm-hmm. It starts with the simple things and it ends with the simple things. You must forgive. Sometimes you have to forgive God, not that he's wrong, but that we can hold things against him. Sure. So you must forgive. You sometimes must forgive God. You must forgive other people. You must forgive yourself. You must release it all to him, break agreement with everything. You shouldn't be carrying inside yourself. And then you must ask to receive from him what he wants to give you instead. So as an example, I woke up this morning feeling all kind of cocky and good. I was like, I did a good job over the weekend. Things went well. God was pleased with me. Look at all that. Wow, look at me. I woke up feeling like this and I thought, oh, this is nice. I feel all chipper and happy. And all of a sudden I went, I'm not sure this is nice. This feels nice. Yeah. And I said to the Lord, I release every form of power that I have or that has ever touched me that's not from you. Wow. And all that feeling of feeling so good and all this stuff on top of the world collapsed. And I became this crawling, like a misfit, this crawling, miserable, hungry self. And I went, oh, that's why I engaged with the demonic, because it promised it would make me feel so good when I was actually feeling so bad.
Wow.
And I said, well, Lord, I'm not going to ask anything to fill that weakness inside of me ever again, except for you and whatever you want to give me. And it turned into the kindest, gentlest, sweetest love. It was like all that power I was experiencing would manipulate people and manipulate circumstances to maintain itself so it didn't feel so awful. And then what replaced it when I let go of that was this sense of peace and purity and wholeness and love, happiness, willingness to participate in life. I don't have to be right. I don't have to be wrong. I don't have to win. I don't have to lose. I get to be here and show up and see how it goes. Do what God gives me to do. And enjoy.
What a place of contentment.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I think all of us want to be there. I'm going to repeat kind of what you said. I don't have to win. I don't have to lose. I don't have to be right. I don't have to be wrong. You just get to participate.
Just get to participate. That's do the best I can.
Crazy profound.
Show up. Show up. It's up to God. He's going to show me what to do. I don't have to get worried if I make mistakes. It's like, oh, well, I blew it. Sorry. Wow. Not that I want to go around blowing it, but if I do, I do. I mean, it's like, there's been a lot on my plate the last few days, and I've made some mistakes, and it's okay. It's like, okay, I correct them, and oh, it's all right.
Just joy.
And just enjoy it. And the funny thing is, when it doesn't bother me, it doesn't bother anybody else. And people come all around to help if there's a mistake, and it actually becomes kind of a funny moment, and it all gets made right. So there isn't a mistake in the end. It all gets corrected.
You do have a lot on your plate, and you handle it with such grace. Nobody would ever know. Can you share just a little bit? I mean, to write a book, that's quite an accomplishment, but that was a couple years ago, and you've been working on a movie, and I mean, internationally been doing things.
So I leave tomorrow morning to go back overseas, and I will be spending some time in Israel, and who knows what else I'll be doing. And I'm working on a film. It's so hard to describe it. It's not normal, because I guess I don't do anything normally, but because I'm taking visual arts and I'm taking dance, and I'm combining them so they're telling a story together. So you might start with the finger of a portrait, let's say, a finger of a person, when then you see the hand, and then maybe then you're going to see the arm, and maybe you'll see up to the neck, and then you're seeing people dancing, and then maybe you're going to see a portion of the face or a portion of something else that is from that painting, and then you see something else dancing, and it all goes with the text and the poetry and the music, and it's telling a story, multiple stories actually together, but it tells a story about how we can live through the pain and the trauma of the end times in joy and in peace and in availability to God and in availability, to other people, to be able to welcome them and help them and bring restoration to people in the midst of what's going to be happening. And it's a joy to work on it. And one of the scenes, I'll tell you a bit about one of the scenes. This is a story actually from the Holocaust. And there was a man, his name was Roddy Edmonds. Roddy Edmonds and his troops, I don't know how many there were, I don't know if it was a battalion, whatever it was, they were captured at the Battle of the Bulge, I think it was. They were captured. We don't talk about the name of the battle, so man, I can have the whole thing mixed up. They were captured in Europe, and they were taken prisoners by the Nazis. And one morning, the Nazis had a roll call, and they said only the Jewish soldiers were supposed to show up for roll call. Roddy Edmonds wasn't Jewish, and he thought, they're going to kill all the Jews because that's what they were doing. And he said, well, I'll show up. And he even made those who were too wounded to walk, they were carried out. Everyone showed up. And so the sergeant, or whoever he is, the German man, says, you can't all be Jews. And Roddy Edmonds says, we're all Jews. And the German officer cocks a gun to his head and he goes, you kill me, then you'll have to kill all of us because you don't know who's who. And then at the end of the war, you'll be tried for war crimes and you'll be killed.
Oh, wow.
Am I clear, sir? And he scared the German officer out of his wits.
Wow.
And the German officer turned around, and none of them died. And so we're dancing, acting out the drama between these two men. And at one point, the sergeant has his finger, like it's a gun, kind of has his finger to Roddy Edmonds' head. And Roddy Edmonds takes it and he moves it down to his heart, and then he opens it up. So it's like he's offering.
Oh, wow.
Right. And it almost triggers the German officer to back down, to surrender. It almost triggers it. At which point, the rage in the German officer explodes. He charges back away from Roddy Edmonds, and then he's flying at him and trying to beat him every which way he can. And no matter what he does, Roddy Edmonds is right in front of his face afterwards. So he can't hit him, and Roddy Edmonds is right there again. Until finally the German officer has nothing left and he's just standing there. And then it stays there for a while. And then finally Roddy Edmonds says, am I clear, sir?
Wow.
And the German officer turns around and walks off. Wow. And it's like, when you're dealing with the arts, you have the capacity to get underneath people's skin. If I teach you a lesson with words, I might affect your heart. I might affect your soul. I might affect your emotions, but I'm mostly going to affect your mind. If I give you an experience like that, it's going to go.
Changes your world.
It's the power of love.
Yeah.
The power of love demonstrated. And when you see the power of love demonstrated, so every story that's told in this big story demonstrates the power of love.
That is.
So and it's called Goshen, because when we are living out of love, we are safe places for other people to find rest within.
Wow.
We're each a retreat center for the Lord when we live out of that kind of love. And it's a common expression, we're each a portal. Well, we're each a part of the temple of the living God. And the living God resided in his temple. And he resides within us. So we are each a carrier of who the living God is. Yeah. And to the extent that we love, remember in that is-ness, there's only unity. If there is no space, no time, no division, nothing's disconnected from anything else. Everything is. You could say all together, but that doesn't even make sense because there's no other option. Everything is. And so our expression of that on the earth is love. Because as soon as I really love you like I love myself, there's no distinction between us in my mind. I will do what's good for you. And you will do what's good for me. Because it's not that I'm confusing who you are with who I am, but that's the power of love.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, Wendy, when I think about it, where we started 2 years ago, your story had to look backwards a little bit to share about your brokenness and to be able to relate with people. And here we are on the last show, looking forward.
It's so exciting.
Healed. You know, we're kind of starting to wrap up a little bit, but I'd really love to hear you share what these 2 years have meant to you and what you hope that they've meant to your viewers and listeners.
Wow, that's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what got me into it in the first place was I was working with a company to help me learn to promote my book better, and you were on a podcast with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was attracted to your simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't seem to have an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I knew you were there because you had a business, you wanted to support the business, and that was important to you, but you really didn't seem to have an agenda. You seemed to be as simply and matter-of-factly there as possible, communicating what you had to offer, but communicating it in such a way that I heard no hype, no exaggeration, just, this is who I am, this is what I have to bring. And I thought, well, that sounds interesting. And the curious thing is, it didn't help promote my book. I have not sold more books because of my work with you.
Well, that's a raving testimony. There we go.
Well, I have done something else. I have created a listenership and a watchership for what I'm doing now. Yeah. And the Lord told me at the beginning, it's not against that she does. Don't take it that way, anybody. Because what the Lord told me when I got into it, he said, I'm not going back with you. I'm going forward.
Wow.
So it became, and I didn't even want to talk about the book very much. Because
no, you didn't.
No, because and that's why I didn't sell more books. Because the Lord had me focused on where he was going, which is where we are now. And it's all been about preparing people for what started with COVID and what's continued and what's happening in the political situation around the world. And the Lord has used this to train me to speak what he wants me to speak about it. So what's happened for me in the last 2 years is that I have gained the confidence to say what he gives me to say without any need to explain any of it, without any need to try to be somebody, It's sort of like what I saw in you, without any need to try to be somebody, to try to promote anything, to try to put on any hat, just to be myself. And people are drawn to it.
Yeah.
And people want to watch it, and they want, and when we miss a week, they write me and they say, "Where'd it go?"
Wow, that's
beautiful. And so I've created, I guess, a viewership.
Yeah.
And emotionally, I don't know, I just am really grateful. And thank you.
This is not going to be goodbyes. We're not doing this. We're going to keep the show going whether or not I'm involved, because, I think about an author. His name is Don Piper. He wrote a book called 90 Minutes in Heaven, and he died in a car accident, and it was back in the late 80s. And when he went to heaven, he had welcoming committee of people that he knew on earth. And the only common thread between all these random people, a cashier, a postal person, a teacher, a parent, a Sunday school, is that somehow they shared Jesus with him. That was the only common thread that was at his welcoming committee. And that's what you're doing, Wendy. Your welcoming committee is growing by leaps and bounds through what we started with these podcasts and what you're going to continue. I'm going to encourage you to continue. We're going to do what it takes for you to continue, because people need to hear the truth and the heart that you have about Jesus. And you have been handpicked at this time for this reason, having gone through such a terrible thing in your childhood, so that we can go, oh, she's not pie in the sky. She's been through hard times. She relates with me. And she found Jesus. I want Jesus too. Yeah.
So let me pray. I'm so grateful for that. My heart just overflows just thinking about what's going to happen in the future with all this, Lord God. Oh, and with the movie and just the connection between the weekly podcast and the movie, there's going to be a lot of overlap. Lord God, I just want to bless Suzanne and the work that she does, and my gratitude for how she's put me on this place where now I'm going to go out and start to do these on my own. It's like crazy. And I thank you, Lord God, that you have created a tool in Suzanne to help many, many people move forward, just like you've helped me. And that she's helped many, many authors walk through into more and more abundance and more fruitfulness. And I ask, Lord God, that would continue in her life and grow in her life, and that she would discover by leaps and bounds the extraordinary gifts that you have put in her to help others. And I just want to bless everybody who's listening to this today, that today will be a new beginning in your life. Today will be a new opportunity to hear the bigness, the vastness, this incredible is-ness of one. You even talk about it. It's like in Hebrew, you can't even call it anything. That thing that you can't call anything because it's beyond, you just can't. That comes into their lives in Yeshua. And that they live in that magnitude of presence with the living God. And that their problems shrink to nothing, just like a single grain of sand. And that their blessings grow to oneness and expansiveness and beauty and glory. They just live in this amazing world every single moment of every day. And bless each person out there who's hearing this to find a community of people who are also desiring to live that fully in Yeshua HaMashiach, in Jesus Christ. I pray this in your holy name, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Tools for the Times with Wendy Cohen. Wendy is an author, speaker, storyteller, and musician, and she would love to connect with you about ways she can share her message about Jesus. Reach out to her today at wendy-cohen.com.